we have any Obi-Wan fans in here? The Clone Wars fans, right? Or Johnny Test. We got a Johnny Test. Come on. Oh, we're just here for Obi-Wan? There's got to be somebody. Come on.
Clone Wars!
There you go. All right. Well, let's all give a big Tampa welcome to James Arnold Taylor.
Hello there. Gotta say it. Now it's a thing. The hello there is a thing. Everywhere I go. Hello there. You got the old Obi-Wan. Hello there. You got the young Obi-Wan. Hello there. You've got the James Arnold Taylor. Hello there.
That's awesome. It's fun that you did. I saw a clip on YouTube of you doing this amazing performance.
Oh, yeah.
Doing impressions and going from character to character, actor to actor, with just slight changes in tone, slight intonation.
Yeah, so that is from, thank you. That is from a stage show I have called Talking to Myself, and I performed it in Florida more than any place else because there was an event called Star Wars Weekends. And
Bring it back!
Yeah, I know. I wish I could use the Jedi mind trick on them to do it. But so I hosted that for 5 years, and I got to bring my show there, and I would perform it every night at Star Wars Weekends. But so the show is called Talking to Myself. You can see it online. But in that show, I have about 200 different voices, and at the end of the show, I run through saying basically, because everybody always asks me, how do you do voices? You know, and how do you come up with them? And basically, it starts with tones. You know, your voice is a tone. Now, I have a really kind of higher Michael J. Fox kind of voice. Well, wait a second, Doc, you mean to tell me about the time machine? I'm the DeLorean? But I can also go pretty low. The way I see it, Marty, if you're going to build a time machine into a car, why not do some style? Okay. You know, so, yeah. So in between there's all sorts of things. If you add texture, like Doc Brown has, he's got that texture in there, right? And so does Marty McFly's got a little texture, but it's different, it's up higher. So there's David Spade, if you bring your voice up and you just say a little nasal, and you are bye. Okay, so it's David Spade. Christopher Walken is, you know, he's his own thing. How do you do Chris Walken the way he would do it? I don't know. But I do. So there you go. Jay Baruchel from How to Train Your Dragon. So whenever Jay is not able to do his voice, I come in and I do his voice for him. And of course Johnny Depp. Anytime Johnny Depp's not able to do his voice, I come in. Captain Jack Sparrow, he's all of that. You have to have my ship with Black Pearl. But let's see who else. A lot of different characters, a lot of different people. So that's how it kind of came about. And you can go and you can see it on my YouTube channel. And you can subscribe to my YouTube channel because there's like 500 plus videos I've made there. And I have a podcast called Talking to Myself where I do all these voices, but I interview my characters. So on the first episode of Talking to Myself, I actually interview Obi-Wan Kenobi. So I'm sitting there doing my podcast, and then Obi-Wan Kenobi comes in, and I say, Obi-Wan, how are you? I'm doing very well, James. How are you? Well, I'm good. The Force is strong with me, right, Obi-Wan? No, not really. You know, and then he gives me a bad time, and then Master Plo Koon may come in. Now, Master Plo Koon from the Clone Wars, if you know, he's another Jedi, and he's an alien, and he's got this big kind of mask. And Dave Filoni, the director, said, when we were coming up with the voice, he said, think Gandalf. And so I just put on my Ian McKellen voice. So whenever you hear Master Plo Koon on the show, before they go and put it through the mask and lower it and everything, it sounds right about here. So Koto Ya, Younger Ahsoka Tano. So that's him. It's just basically Ian McKellen. So I can go on and on and on about the voice. You can cut me off at any point in time, but yeah. So
this is pretty spectacular. I don't want to cut you off, because what I love about this is how much it shows. You know, I think a lot of times we take the work that actors do for granted because we just see that final product on the screen, right? Or, you know, in video game, or whatever. And it shows just how much thought and work and craft, especially that goes into voice acting.
Thank you.
Right? I mean, and that's what I love, that it really demonstrates that. You know, because and the thought and just how much you're breaking it down from tone and all of these things. You know?
Yeah, and all you have is your voice when you're voice acting. Now see, I'm very rare in that most voice actors discovered they could do voices and they were an on-camera actor, meaning they did stuff, you know, in front of the camera. Voice actors, we do things in little padded rooms talking to ourselves on microphones. And I, since I was 4 years old, knew that's what I wanted to do. I realized at a young age that I could do voices and that I had kind of an unusual range for somebody my size. Because I'm about 128 pounds and 5'4" and.
But I'm also the voice of Fred Flintstone.
But there's some Fred Flintstone fans out here. So like Fred, for example, here's a good example of the difference between a voice actor and an on-camera actor, where if you're an on-camera actor, you kind of have to look like the character you're doing. And with voice acting, you don't have to look anything like them. I mean, again, proof positive. I'm also Johnny Test, who's 11 years old and totally awesome, and he's a little kid, so nobody would ever expect Johnny Test to come out of my voice, and Obi-Wan Kenobi, Johnny Test, same person, it's weird. But Fred Flintstone, they did a nationwide search for the new voice of Fred Flintstone, because Alan Reed was the original, and then Henry Corden took over for Alan after Alan had passed away in the 70s. So Henry was the voice for about 30 years, and he knew he was unable to do the voice anymore. He was getting older and he was retiring and such, and he had some illness that was affecting it. And so he helped this nationwide search to find the voice of Fred Flintstone. I was the least likely candidate to be because, again, this is not Fred Flintstone, it's Barney Rubble maybe, but like obnoxious David Spade Barney Rubble, but hey Fred, yeah, that's great. So I had done a special tape. Now, many of you, well, I should ask, how many of you are interested in voice acting? Yeah, there's always a few people. It's become a new thing now. It's funny, it's like, you tell people you're a voice actor and they're like, I've always wanted to do that. So I did something special for that audition because I really wanted it. Because Fred Flintstone I loved since I was a kid. And my sister...
What an opportunity.
Yeah, what an opportunity. Exactly. To be the voice of an iconic character. So I made a special audition tape. I read the audition they gave me, but I recorded the lines that they had given me, the scripts. Then I wrote a script myself of Fred Flintstone auditioning for his own job. And so I did all the characters in it, and I did them all in the vein of the old Flintstones. So I went, all right, this is the Fred Flintstone audition, take one, slate your name.
My name is Fred.
What's your last name?
Flintstone.
Gee, that's a bit of a coincidence. And it was that kind of a thing. And then, all right, just read the line, Flintstone.
Yabba dabba do.
No, give us more energy.
Yabba dabba do.
And so I had this whole thing of him auditioning for his own job, and they thought it was creative, and they liked it, and they brought me in, and it was down between me and 2 other actors, and one of them was my good friend Fred Tatasciore. I don't know if anybody knows Fred Tatasciore, but Fred is an amazing actor, and his name is already Fred, so he's got me on that, and he's a big guy, so he's got me there, so I was like, there's no way I'm going to get this over Fred, but Fred is also one of the most humble guys in the world. He goes, I just love that you got that voice, James, because it's so different. But when I walked in the room, the director literally looked over me. She went like, where's James? I'm like, it's me. I'm right here. And so then I was in a booth with Henry Corden, who was, the voice of Fred Flintstone for 30 years. And let me back up. Fred Flintstone, originally Alan Reed, as I mentioned. Henry was Alan's singing double as Fred Flintstone. So Alan couldn't carry a tune, he couldn't sing. So they brought in Henry Corden, who was a singer who could sing. So anytime you heard Fred Flintstone sing, it was actually Henry Corden. So when Alan passed away, it was a natural progression. But I walk in the room and she looks over me and she goes, no, your voice isn't deep enough. And the engineer goes, actually his voice is deeper than Henry's. And she goes, well, okay, he doesn't have enough Jackie Gleason, he doesn't have this, he's not that. And Henry gets mad at her and says, would you stop looking at him and listen to him? And that was the key. So he made her close her eyes for the rest of the audition. So throughout, the director was there with her eyes closed, and then they would play Henry's voice, and then I would repeat it, and then I would say it, and they'd play him, and it got to the point where she couldn't tell who was who. And that's when we knew, okay, so I did all right.
So, I mean, obviously you come from doing impressions as your background. I find that's not atypical for a lot of people that specialize in voice acting and stand-up as well.
Yeah, and I started as a stand-up. When I was 16, I went to a bar. I'm from Santa Barbara, which is a town in California, and it's about, Santa Barbara, okay, go ahead.
Santa Maria.
Santa Maria, yeah, not too far, yeah. I have some family in Santa Maria, all right. All right, rock on. So I went and I did stand-up. I wrote an act when I was a kid, and I had been writing acts for my stand-up since I was 12, because I always, Steve Martin, Robin Williams, Bill Cosby, all these guys that...
Rich Little?
Rich Little. Yeah, you know who I really liked was Frank Gorshin.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Who was the Riddler on the original
Right.
Batman series.
Yeah.
Because he was an amazing impersonator,
Right.
but he was also an amazing actor.
Yeah.
And Rich Little was as well, but Rich Little was like the one that everybody always went
Right,
to.
right. That's what you think of. Right.
Frank Gorshin was like the first guy to ever do Jack Nicholson.
Huh?
And he did the whole, pulled his hair back and put the sunglasses on and said, well, Nurse Ratched,
The whole thing. And I admired what he did and how he created voices. So, yeah, I never thought of myself as an impersonator. And what I do now in voiceover is I do what they call voice doubling.
Okay.
So the difference with like an impression and doubling is an impression can be like, so if you're doing Christopher Walken as an impression, you might do it up here and go, I need more cowbell, But if you're doing Chris Walken and he's just saying, I could really use some more cowbell, it's not as big, you see. So most impersonators kind of exaggerate it on purpose for fun.
Yes.
But a voice double has to sound as
Exactly.
close to that person as they can without it being an impression.
Interesting.
It's weird, yeah.
No, it's not weird. That makes perfect sense, actually. That's pretty cool. Okay, I didn't realize it. That's cool.
Yeah, it's subtle.
And that makes sense. So, and that's really what you specialize in mostly as well, right? I mean, because, for example, you got to do Ian McGregor if you're doing Obi-Wan.
Yeah,
That's the idea. That's what they're hiring you for.
Right.
Not to do, an exaggerated version of Ian McGregor so that we all know, oh, he's doing Ian McGregor.
Right. No, so the way it worked was the Attack of the Clones had come out, and Revenge of the Sith had not come out yet, and they needed somebody to do an Obi-Wan, and I got called into my agents, and they said, audition for this and listen to it. I had done some of Ewan McGregor's voice for other things like Moulin Rouge and such in the past, so we have very similar voices. His tone is about the same as mine, and if you ever hear Ewan McGregor do an American accent, he kind of pushes his voice up to the front of his mouth because he's, of course, he's Scottish, and he has to cover up his accent. So the way he would do that is he'll push, just like if I'm doing that, I actually pull back into back here, and I relax my throat, and I do this, and I just kind of let the accent happen, right? So to cover up an accent, you then start to kind of push it forward. So I would do his voice, and it was very similar to mine. So I thought, well, so if I go in there and just do me with a British accent, maybe that'll sound like him doing Obi-Wan, because he's actually Scottish, doing Alec Guinness, doing Obi-Wan Kenobi. So
That's a great point.
I'm doing Ewan McGregor, doing Alec Guinness, doing Obi-Wan Kenobi. It's
Forgot about the Alec Guinness part.
Yeah, because when I first saw Phantom Menace, and he says, I have a bad feeling about this, Master. It's not about the mission, it's something more elusive. I was like, wow, he's doing Alec Guinness, I have a bad feeling about this, Master.
Yeah.
You could hear it, so I thought it was really neat.
Yeah, that's fascinating. So you started with the Tarkovsky one, correct?
Yeah,
right off the bat,
the
and you've done
micro-series.
it the whole time, right?
Yeah. The micro series of the Clone Wars, I don't know if you guys know that. Now, if you're Clone Wars fans and you don't know the micro series, do yourself a favor and find it online or get the DVDs if they're still out there or whatever.
You guys are familiar, right, with Tarkovsky, the first
Micro series?
Right?
It's brilliant stuff. And here's the funny thing, they were 3-minute episodes.
Yeah.
And I always joke, Gray Delisle, who was here today at the show, she was doing Padme on it and a couple other characters. I would always joke with Gray, it takes longer to park our cars than it does to record a session of the show because it was 3 minutes long. And I might walk in and go, Anakin, I'm on my way. And that'd be it. That's the episode. Like, okay, and we're done. Because they were very stylized. He did Samurai Jack and all of his shows in that style. So that series was very much in that. Less words, more action.
Yeah, and it's weird. I think technically it's no longer canon, which breaks my heart because...
Is that right?
Yeah, the rest of Clone Wars is. But they left out the Tarkovsky series.
They have to talk to someone.
I feel like you should, because it's brilliant.
It is,
It's
yeah.
so well done. Yes, it's stylized, but that's what makes it so great. And for me, that was really the first time I think you really got to see, yes, in Phantom Menace and Attack, you finally got to see the Jedi doing some things, but it really wasn't until the Tartakovsky show
Yeah.
where they went full Jedi, right?
Yeah, they
and,
really got to see some of the power
right,
that
you
we
know.
didn't get a chance to see.
And so that way, I mean, yeah, that was sort of to me the beginning of, wow, this is what Star Wars really ought to be now that we have the ability to do things with special effects, things like that. And with animation, you can go even further, right?
Absolutely.
So yeah, I hope that series, it's a shame, they should unretcon, however, get it back in there, you know. So.
No, it's very cool. And so after we did that show, then they started making the games. The Revenge of the Sith video game was being made the same time as the movie. So I got to see a bunch of the movie before anybody else did. One day I go in for the session, and they got like this laptop basically handcuffed to me because it's like top secret stuff, and it was the whole thing on Mustafar. And they showed me this scene of Ewan McGregor standing on a blue screen up on like, you know, this lift with, you know, blue blankets all over it. And he's standing there with a lightsaber hilt and he's going, "You are the chosen one. It was said you would destroy the Sith, not join them. Bring balance to the Force, not leave it in darkness." And they said, "Can you do that?" And I was like, wow, he's got this layer. So, you know, his is, "You look tired because of your mother, dreams past in times," you know, and he has these kind of things, you know. Did I say anything? I didn't say anything. He's got all these wonderful lines right from the film. But when he then goes into that other shouty level, he's got this wonderful rasp to his voice, and I was able to duplicate that. And from that point on, they went, well, this is our guy. So that was 18 years ago, and I am still doing Obi-Wan.
How was that 18 years ago?
Yeah, it's amazing. I know, it is amazing.
So I know we're going to get lots of Obi-Wan questions. We'll answer you a little bit, but I want to ask you, one of the other major characters that you did, you mentioned earlier, is Johnny Test.
Yeah.
You know, and
Johnny Test, totally awesome. Come on, you can apply for Johnny Test.
It's a love-hate thing with Johnny Test, I think, for a lot of people.
why do you not like? Why do people? My son liked that show, so I would watch it
so
every day
I'm
when he was
sorry,
younger,
yes,
right?
you-
And it's like, God, this is. I mean, there was some really clever humor in that show.
Yeah, Scott Fellows is the creator of it, and he also created a show called Big Time Rush. I don't know if you guys know Big Time Rush. And I got to be on Big Time Rush. There's an episode where I play regional manager Taylor. And that was a little joke there. He brought me in, and I did kind of a David Spade thing there. But Scott is a twisted fella, and he had two twin sisters, Susan and Mary. Those were his sisters. And so he kind of based it on his childhood growing up with these sisters that would torture him, you know, and make him, you know, eat salt, too much salt to see what would happen and stuff. So he then came up with this idea, what if there was a kid and his sisters were geniuses, you know, and so. But now, so, I don't know if any of you know, so I'm Johnny on Johnny Test, but I'm also
Hank Anchorman, the city of Pork Belly's under attack. I'm also Dark Vegan. Ooh, I will get you, Johnny Test.
ooh, toast. Let's see, Mr. Mittens, hairball, the beekeeper, and Doc Weevil, try my piles of honey bars. Yeah, a lot of different characters. Every episode I got to be different characters on that.
You've done so much. You've done a lot of comic book characters as well, a lot of DC stuff.
Yeah, so my favorite superhero on the planet growing up was The Flash, fastest man alive.
Yeah.
And I'm the Flash now for Lego, for all the Lego Flash. Thank you. And then for Young Justice, which is a very cool show and has a really solid following of people.
You're
And
Barry
then-
Allen in that one, right? Barry Allen?
Yeah, I'm also, yeah, Barry Allen on that. Yeah, and I'm Barry on the Lego one too.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Which is great, because that's the one I grew up reading. I still have all my old Flash comics.
Yeah.
I loved Flash, I loved Justice League, I loved Green Arrow, I loved Spidey, I loved Spidey Super Story, Spectacular Spider-Man, Amazing Spider-Man. I loved X-Men. Those are the ones I grew up really reading a lot of, and I still have all of them. So for me, I got to voice all those characters. I've been Green Arrow in different
Couple of
forms.
times. Brave and the Bold, right?
Yeah, Brave and the Bold. I was
Green Arrow.
Green Arrow, and I was Guy Gardner for the Green Lantern on that. And then I've got to be Flash, and I've got to be Spider-Man, and Iceman, and Cyclops, and we were just talking too. I got to be Tony Stark on some things. And where's Captain Marvel? Is Captain Marvel in here? So, yeah, okay. Yeah, we were talking about that, about Tony Stark and everything. Because, you know, I mean, again, the beauty of being a voice actor is you can be these characters. I've been Thor on things. So yeah, there's so many characters and so many wonderful things. I was Batman, and for Christian Bale. When Christian Bale did the movie, the first movie, I was his voice double. So some of it is me. The trick when you voice double is hopefully you never know that it's me in the movie or on the games or on the shows. So if you hear Hiccup Haddock saying, "Toothless, come on, let's go," hopefully you don't know if it's me or Jay Baruchel. So, Christian Bale was Batman. He was all right in there. It was before he turned into that whole, "I'm Batman," you know, like the cheese grater on the throat. I don't know what he was doing there.
I was about to say, the scenes where you can actually understand what Batman's saying, that's you, right? Not just, is that correct? Good. Yeah, that's, it must be fun getting to, you know, as a fan yourself of these characters, to get to be able to do that, to do this, and to be able to, you know, to be able to portray them and do that. Let me ask you this. So, obviously, you're a specialist in doing voice double work, which not all voice actors can do, and that's a very highly specialized, you know, skill. So, for you, do you enjoy doing that more than doing more original voices?
No, I enjoy original voices more. Here's why. I have fun doing the voices of people. It is fun to go in and do somebody's voice for a thing, but it's also very stressful because it depends on the director too. Because it depends on, everybody has a different set of ears. So if I do, you know, whoever, Christopher Walken, for example, you may go, some people may go, "That sounds exactly like him." Some people may go, "That doesn't sound like him. It's too high, it's too low, it's too this, it's too that." And so it can be very stressful when you're doubling. I was just doing Jeff Goldblum's voice and for a thing the other day, and you just have to. Well, I walk in never knowing what set of ears are going to be on the other side of the glass. And when I say on the other side of the glass, so when we're in a studio, you're always in this little booth and there's glass there, and the director and the producers and the writers and everybody, they're all sitting there on that side. And they're all eating and drinking and having a good time, and you're hungry and your stomach growls. They're like, "Sorry, we need to redo another take." Your stomach growls. I'm like, "Yeah, it's because I'm watching you all eat." Because as a voice actor, you have to always be on the ready. You got to take care of your voice. So, many years ago, I lost my voice to black mold, toxic mold. And I was exposed to black mold in a house that we bought, and lost my voice and had to start over. And it was right at the height of my career doing a lot of different things. Leonardo the Ninja Turtle, and Obi-Wan, and Ratchet from Ratchet and Clank, and Tidus from Final Fantasy, and all these different things. And so I had to learn. I had to stop talking for several months, and then I had to kind of learn how to retrain my voice to work. So it was a
kind of a nightmare.
Yeah, it was fun. But the benefit of it is that I learned that whatever challenges you're going through in your life, they are there to make you stronger. They're not there to beat you up and to ruin you. They are there to definitely make you stronger. So please, if you're going through a trial right now, know that it can certainly be used for your benefit, and it can be used to strengthen you, okay? And that's always my prayer for all of you as well, so yeah.
All right, we're going to start pitching it out to the audience for questions. We have microphones here and here, so if you guys want to go ahead and get in line, to the microphones if you want to ask questions. While they're doing that real quick,
Yes.
You always get the, "Hey, can you do the voice? Can you do the voice?" Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So I want to do your choice.
My choice.
Do the voice. What's your favorite?
You know what I like? Okay, and I double him sometimes. This one's loud. Okay, I won't go around on the mic.
I like to do Gilbert Gottfried. Nobody ever expects Gilbert Gottfried to come in like a library and go, "Do you have this book? Why do you make me quiet?" You notice how my eyes are, I can't open them when I do this voice. It's the way it works.
I love doing that. Gilbert Gottfried. Yes, a Jedi. Yes, don't go to the dark side, my friend.
Hello, it's a pleasure to see you when it's not in a room filled with 4,000 people.
Oh, you went to like Celebration or
Yep.
Star Wars Weekends? Oh, thank you. Yeah, I was really blessed to host those events, yeah.
That Clone Wars panel was insane.
Oh, thank you.
Clone Wars saved.
Yeah, Clone Wars was saved, indeed. Hashtag.
I got a fear if that's alright.
What's that?
I've got a pair if that's
Let's
all right.
do one and then get back in line so we can make
So-
sure everybody gets a chance.
Okay.
So I know you can't say anything about season 7 of Clone Wars.
I could, but I'd have to use the Jedi mind trick of all of the white brains.
So I know that things are going to be different a bit. So I see Obi-Wan abandoned his clone armor apparently to go back to the regular robes. So are we going to see a reason for that? Because I love the robes, especially in Battlefront 2.
Yeah, Battlefront 2 was a great pleasure and honor to get to voice you in that, and do all those classic lines. We got to mix Clone Wars lines and movie lines and new lines. But you see how I'm avoiding your question? Isn't it wonderful? Let me tell you more about Battlefront.
I feel like Disney has powerful lawyers.
Yeah,
They're strong in the
you
Force.
know.
I love the clone armor in that game. I always wear it.
Yeah, I don't know. We'll just have to wait and see what happens with all of that. Because, so now the one thing I will say is, we recorded a lot of season 7 before when we were doing the show originally. And then the show got canceled because Disney bought us and then went, oh, we'll make our own show. And so, God bless them, that's great, it's fine. But, so a lot of it sat in a vault for many, many years until all of you, hashtag Clone Wars saved. I mean, the fan base being, I don't want to say relentless in a bad way, I mean in a good way, of saying, no, we loved this. Can you please let it finish? It's really a tribute to all of you, and I thank you all, because I was completely surprised. Somebody was asking me earlier, was I surprised? Yeah, I was absolutely surprised. So I do voices in all the Star Wars films. And I was doing voices for Solo, and Matt Wood, who is General Grievous, hello there, and all the battle droids, Roger. He's the sound designer, of course, for all his films, and he pulled me aside. He said, "There's a rumor Clone Wars is coming back." I said, "No." And then 2 days later, my agents called and said, "It's coming back." So yeah. So I tried to give you as much information as I could without giving you any information. I hope that worked.
This is not the answer we were looking for.
That's right. Go over to this side here.
Hello. I am a huge fan, and this is the coolest thing ever.
Cool.
So I have a question about the new Galaxy's Edge that's coming to Florida. I think it's actually already here.
Yeah.
Wait a minute. I don't know when it's coming here, but would you be attending with any of the cast from Clone Wars?
Oh, wouldn't it be wonderful if they invited me? Well, if anybody is from Disney, tell them to invite me. That would be. No, I don't know. I got to go to Galaxy's Edge at Disneyland when it opened, and that was wonderful. And I got to see the little holocron that they have. You've seen the holocron? You put your fingers on it and it says, "This is a message from Jedi Master Obi-Wan Kenobi." I went, "Oh, that's me." It was really cool. I had no idea that they were doing that. I know that half of it kind of opened at Disneyland. The Resistance ride, the Rise of the Resistance, it was not open yet. I think they're probably waiting to open both here in Orlando. But I think it's coming soon, right? It's coming soon. August 29th? Oh, that's soon. Yes. But yes, I won't say anything. Well, you won't hear Obi-Wan Kenobi there, I can say that. But you might hear my voice somewhere there. Maybe one of my, if you have a good ear and can detect all my voices, then maybe you'll hear a voice of mine there. But I hope so. I would hope they'd invite me. I'm sure Ashley will be there because she lives out here. So, yeah, Soka lives indeed. Yeah, so there you go. I hope that answers your question somewhat.
Thank you so much.
All right, thank you.
So this is a question related to Final Fantasy X.
Yeah.
The infamous Tita slap. Well, 2 bits. Would you mind doing it if you could?
Well, so let me educate everybody that's, all these Star Wars fans here, like, what is this Final Fantasy you speak of? So I did a game called Final Fantasy X many, many years ago, because I'm an old man. And I played a young man named Titus, and it is pronounced Titus, not Titus, but I will let you say it however you want, because if you spend 17 years saying Titus and somebody then says it's Titus, that's going to be annoying. So, but the way they taught it to me was Titus. So, in this game, there's a very well-known scene where Titus and Yuna, who is his love interest in the game, she tries to get him to laugh, and then he laughs a really fake, obnoxious laugh that sounds a little like Gilbert Gottfried. And the way it worked was they had the Japanese version already, and I was dubbing it in for the American version, and they played me the scene, and I said, okay, that's great, do you want me to actually do that laugh like that? And they're like, yeah, and I'm like, okay, this is going to be trouble, because I knew, here it is like 17, 18 years later, people are still going on about the laugh. So I will do the laugh for you if you tell me something funny.
Okay.
Oh, good.
Alright, so the reason that I mispronounced Titus's name, because I never played it. I come from the Kingdom Hearts community, so I know little to nothing about that, or about 10.
So you haven't listened to my story?
No, I have. I know you're also Jack Sparrow in Cage, too.
That's right, Jack, yes.
Well, okay. So Titus would laugh like this. Yes, I am sorry. You really shouldn't applaud that. There's no reason at all. All right, over on this end.
Hi.
Hey.
What was it like? Oh, actually, I should rephrase it. How did it come about that you replaced Mikey Kelly as the voice of Ratchet? And also, what was it like sort of taking up that role as the main character?
Yeah, so Ratchet & Clank is another game that's been out for about, 17 years. Ratchet & Clank was the first game, and then they've had, I've been in 17 different Ratchet & Clank games, or games where Ratchet has been in. So Mikey was the original voice, and this happens sometimes. It's happened to me before, where I've been replaced as a voice. It's not uncommon, and they decided they wanted to change the direction of the character. It was no offense to what Mikey was doing at all. Mikey is a dear friend of mine and a wonderful actor. We played together in the TMNT movie. I was Leonardo, and he was Michelangelo. But Mikey's got, more of a voice like me, kind of surfery kind of dude, and hey, bud, and I think they wanted Ratchet to have a different tone to him. They didn't want to be kind of like, party on, dude. They wanted him more like, hang on a second, let me think about this. And, they wanted a different tone, and so that happens sometimes. So I went in not knowing I was going to be replacing a friend of mine, because Mikey was a friend of mine. And then I found out, and we're good on it. Everybody, we all understand it's part of the business. But it's really been a blessing to be a part of that series, because I love the character of Ratchet. And he's very dear to me. And I, on a personal note, I never knew my father. And Ratchet is Lombax, and he's the only one. He's an orphan, basically. So I wasn't an orphan, but I could relate to his story. Just like with Titus. Titus had issues with his father. And so I love these characters when I can actually pull something in from my own life. And he's also the hero that just wants to do the right thing. He, no matter what, he wants... Sometimes he gets taken up with ego, but then he realizes, no, I got to do the right thing. And so that's the coolest thing for me with Ratchet, because I try to do that. And the other cool thing is that it's just my regular voice. So I don't have to do anything. Sorry, my phone's going on. I don't have to, usually I walk into a studio and it's like, what voice do I have to do today? And when it's Ratchet, they always joke, they go, do you want to hear the reference file, James? So they play me a reference to get me into character. It's like, yeah, it's me, I got it. So, yeah. All right. So over here, yeah.
So in Clone Wars, playing Obi-Wan, you obviously had a lot of involvement in the story with Maul.
Yeah.
Now, when at the end of The Phantom Menace, most people thought that Maul was dead.
Yes.
When you found out that he was alive again, what did you think?
Oh dear. I should have aimed for his head. I think it was fantastic of them to bring that back, and that was all George Lucas. Here's the one thing I will say, remember this, Clone Wars is the last George Lucas Star Wars, and that to me is what makes it awesome and wonderful,
yes.
And a true part of Star Wars in a way that, because he was able to play. George had done all these things for all these years and take flack from people and fans that want this and fans that want that and all of this, and then he was able to, with Clone Wars, just do whatever he wanted to do. And so he called up Dave Filoni, as the story goes, and goes, oh, we're going to bring Maul back. And Dave went, wait a second, what? Because Dave sounds like David Spade. And so then they brought Maul back, and then they got Sam Witwer, who is a fantastic actor, to voice him, and it was wonderful. I just don't like what he did with the Duchess of Tea, so no spoilers, all right. Here, yeah.
Mike Stout and Tony Garcia, two of the developers from Ratchet & Clank. They have this show on YouTube called Useless Podcast. They talk about developing Ratchet & Clank.
Oh.
And occasionally they have guests come on. I want to know if they ever ask you to come on and talk about it.
No, they should ask me to come on. They should.
Yeah.
Tell them that they should have me on there. If you know, yeah, I'll have to look into it. I'll look into it and see because I have a YouTube channel. I do a lot of videos and stuff, and I'm certainly active on social media. So I'll have to try to find them and see if I can harass them into getting me on there, right? Because that'd be fun, wouldn't it?
Yeah, that'd be cool.
All right, cool, man. Thank you for letting me know, Jojo. All right, well, thanks.
Okay, another Clone Wars question.
Yes, sir.
How exciting and emotional was it to get the old cast together?
We'll get the old band back together then, right? Ringo and Paul and George. It was really great because the thing about Clone Wars is we really are a family. Catherine Tabor is one of the closest people in the world to me. She played Padme Amidala. She's like my sister. Ashley is like my little sister. Matt is like my little brother because I'm again an old man. And Tom King's like my older brother. Look at that. I get to give Tom a bad time. No, it was really amazing. And the funny thing is it was like nothing changed. D. Bradley Baker and I, we work together on cartoons all the time. But when we work together on Clone Wars, it's just more magical, and we like to harass Ashley. So like when we're in the studio, we record all together always. And so Dee and I would always do this voice, like Ashley would be doing her lines, and she would get the giggles and things, and she did this laugh, and the engineer would keep it on. He had a sample of it that he'd play every time she would mess up or something. And it was kind of like, on Simpsons, right? And it's just her natural laugh that comes out. So we would give her a bad time, but then Dee and I would do these like surfer dudes. Right, remember when Ashley did the laugh and all that was all awesome? She's like, and we would make her laugh, and she couldn't then get through her lines, which is great, for us. But and Dave Filoni comes in and talks for like a half an hour before the show starts. All right, let me tell you about what we're doing this episode. This is Star Wars. It's pretty great. This is what we're doing. This is what it's gonna look like, and that. And so it was just like no time had passed at all, except my beard is old Ben now, and when we started, it was young Obi-Wan. So yeah, it was very exciting. I don't know if you all saw the video or if any of you were there at San Diego Comic-Con when they made the announcement. Ashley was just in tears. She was so excited. And it was a huge surprise to everybody. It was great. So, yeah, thanks for asking that. Yeah.
Hey, along those lines, how different is it recording with the group than solo?
Great question.
So we can play off each other?
Yeah, if you're doing an animated TV series, you're usually together with the cast. If you're doing a video game, you're alone. 99% of the time. When we did Batman Brave and the Bold, the video game, I was in there with Diedrich Bader, who was Batman, because Andrea Romano, who is quite possibly the greatest voice director of all time, knew that chemistry needed to be there. And when you do a video game, it's just line after line after line after line. It's usually an Excel document instead of a script. But when you do an animated show, you get the script, you get every bit of information. Although with Clone Wars, we would get the scripts when we walked in. It was so top secret.
Wow.
So like with the Duchess of Tea, the Lawless episode, I didn't have any idea what was going to happen in that episode until we said the words. But that makes a difference. So Matt Lanter, who is brilliant as Anakin Skywalker, he's my favorite Anakin. It's no offense to Hayden, I think Hayden's fantastic as well, but Matt is certainly my Anakin. He and I would be right just next to each other usually, and we would just give each other bad time, and it would allow for the ability to ad-lib and stuff too.
All right.
Yeah.
Cool.
Over this side, yes.
Yeah, so what was your initial reaction when you figured out that George Lucas was no longer doing Star Wars?
That's a great question. I don't think anybody's ever asked me that. I am a purist. I'm 50 years old now. Just last week I turned 50.
Happy birthday.
Oh, thank you, yes. Yes. So I grew up with Star Wars, I saw A New Hope, before it was called A New Hope, in a drive-in theater when I was 7 years old, and it changed my life. And I never could have imagined that I'd be a part of it. And so George Lucas and Star Wars I'm a great defender of anything and everything that George Lucas does with Star Wars. And I think that without his brilliant mind, we wouldn't have Avengers or Planet of the Apes or Lord of the Rings or anything looking and feeling the way they do, because he created stuff and he did it outside of the system to where he went, oh, that needs to be made, let's make that. And that's what he did with Clone Wars every episode. If there wasn't the ability to do it, he'd go, well, what would it take to do that? And they'd say, well, we need this much money and create this type of computer program. And he'd go, okay, do it. Here's the money. What you have to realize is, like with Clone Wars, we made that show for 2 years before you all ever saw it. We were working on it for 2 years before he sold it to a network. And we didn't know what network it was going to end up at, but that was because he had the money to just do that. And he had the vision to do that. So I was sad. I was sad that George wasn't going to be involved in it anymore, but I also understood, because there's a lot of debate. You know, you create this wonderful thing, and everybody, and the thing you have to remember too, George was always very open to fans being involved in it. You see so many wonderful fan-made things, and he embraced all of that. And so, yeah, I understand why he did it, but I was sad. And I liked the new movies. I like all them. My voice is in all of them. Of course I like them. I wanted to stay in them. But I felt the first one, Force Awakens, when I saw it, I felt it was a little like the kids got the keys to Dad's car. I took it for a test drive. They did great, but I was missing George. So yeah, but thanks for that question.
And The Last Jedi?
The Last Jedi, yeah, that's a movie, all right, indeed. There you go.
I think a lot of people don't just really realize just how much George was a fan before he was a fan that made it big. I mean, he owned part owner of a comic book store in the 70s before Star Wars, right? I mean, he was one of us, right?
Yeah.
That just,
He would be here, yeah.
And he gets it, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, sir.
Someone took my Ratchet and Clank question, so I'll just go to my second backup. Have you ever played the games, or have you just done the voices so much that it's kind of...
Oh, no, I play them. Yeah, I play them. I love playing them. I love playing them with my daughter. My daughter's 14, and she loves playing them and being characters that can beat up my characters. So she can hear me go, ow. But no, I enjoy playing them. They usually send me copies. Sometimes I have to go buy them though, too, just like all of you. Just like the streaming service for the new Clone Wars, I'm gonna have to buy it like everybody else, so I can watch the stuff, because I'm a fan. I want to watch it.
You don't get a copy?
No, it's Disney. They don't have a lot of money. Thanks, though, yeah. Hey.
Speaking of Disney, we actually did work together for those last 2 years of Star Wars. I was one of the attendants with Luke and Leia.
Oh, wonderful!
So with the whole closing ceremony, hanging out in the background.
Oh man, thank you. That was
awesome.
Yeah.
Getting to spend that time and getting to know you like as a person.
Oh, thanks.
Was like life-changing.
I owe you a few bucks for saying that for everybody.
But speaking of that, what is maybe one of your most fond moments with the whole Star Wars celebration time, being the MC for that for so long?
Oh man, a lot of different moments. I hosted Star Wars Celebration twice. I hosted Star Wars Weekends 5 times. I attended 7 years of Star Wars Weekends. All of it, yeah. All of them were wonderful. Star Wars Weekends. With the last year, I got to interview one of my absolute heroes. Was Frank Oz. And Frank and I are now, we're good friends now, and I can email him, and it's very weird. And he gives me a bad time, like, oh, great to hear from you, James. I mean, great to hear from you, James. He's got a very dry sense of humor. That was one of the greatest honors, getting to know all these wonderful people. Carrie Fisher, Carrie and I had a wonderful time on stage at every Star Wars celebration. She gave me a spanking in front of 3,000 people. She rolled around on the floor and did like a fake makeout session with me in front of like 5,000 people, and that fun. Mark Hamill is just one of the dearest people. I think one of the coolest moments was one that nobody really saw, was at Star Wars Celebration 5 or 6, the first one I hosted. They were doing a Detours panel, which was a show that still has not seen the light of day, which should see the light of day because it's a brilliant show. And George was backstage, alone, watching on a monitor. He was watching Seth Green and Donald Faison and all of those guys up on stage, joking and showing clips of this thing that he was very proud of. And he was sitting back there, just with his arms up, looking back at the screen, just watching it. And I was watching him take in all of this and seeing the fun that was happening. And it felt like it was a neat moment. So that was kind of like a personal, cool moment. But the others are just, there's too many to name. Working with so many wonderful people, Ian McDiarmid and Warren Davis and Jeremy Bullock, I could go on and on. Of course, Peter Mayhew was just one of the dearest people in the world to me and my family. I'm gonna get choked up if I go anymore. So it was all wonderful. But also, working with all the cast and crew at Disney was one of the most touching things. My wife and my daughter and I still, to this day, at least 2 meals a week, we go, all right, Star Wars week, it's good. My daughter grew up with it, so yeah, it's wonderful.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks. I want to try to get you all in here. I know we got a few minutes left. I'm sorry. All right,
go fast.
Hi. So I was at your table earlier and I asked you a question.
Yes.
I kind of want to change that question.
Uh-oh.
So my question to you was, what was your favorite character that you've done? And you told me they're all kind of like children. When you're in the role,
right.
It's your favorite. So my entry into your acting career was you playing Mysterio on the Spider-Man 2 video game.
Oh, wow.
And that's a very minor role, I know, but so my
Not
question
anymore. Mysterio's you.
that's my favorite Marvel character. So
Mysterio. Yes, I am Mysterio, spider fool.
Yeah, I'm sorry, your question.
Yeah. So my question is, if you had to pick a minor role that you did now versus back then, and turn it into something like a TV show or a movie or something major, what would your first pick be?
That's interesting. Mysterio would be a good one. Every time somebody else plays him, I get really sad. Because I loved being Mysterio.
Did you like Far From Home?
Far From Home? Yeah. I'll be honest, I haven't seen it yet.
It's good.
I know it's good.
Are you bitter because you're not
No. I really liked the original ones, the Tobey Maguire ones. I did stuff there. And I, of course, worked with Tobey there, and our daughters were friends and stuff. And so I always loved it. I loved what Sam Raimi did. I thought Sam Raimi's Spider-Man was brilliant. And I love the new ones too, don't get me wrong. But yeah, I haven't seen it yet. I'm kind of waiting. I'll probably watch it on the plane on the way back. But yeah, Mysterio is one of them. Gosh, there's a lot of characters, the little ones like that. The Leader is another one, very similar. That I did on Hulk and the Agents of Smash. And then there was a show on Disney last year that came out, Billy Dilly's Subterraneatania. And I was Count Richard, and he was a 12,000-year-old wizard, and he would talk like this. And so I just love talking in an accent like that. Thank you for clapping, yes, very good. I'll get my sludge cannon and put sludge on all of you. So I think characters like that are fun for me. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have time?
We're kind of running out. Let's do one last one. We're going to do it quickly, okay?
Going back to Final Fantasy X, what was it like working on those games?
It was fantastic fun. I always get a kick whenever they bring me back in to do them. The first one, it was 3.5 months worth of work, and the script was like a phone book. And I will say, I have a lot of stories about it on my YouTube channel. If you go to my YouTube channel, I do videos about Final Fantasy. But it was wonderful because I had no idea what I was getting into, and that all these years later, people would still be such fans of it. So I really thank you for that question. It was fun. And even this last year, we did the Mobius app. If you haven't seen it, Final Fantasy Mobius app, and it was great fun to recreate some of those scenes. So yeah, thanks.
I hate to do it, but I'm getting the dirty look from the side stage over here. I'm sorry, guys.
It's just my dad couldn't make it, and he's a huge fan of Star Wars. I just want a quick line recorded of him saying, "Sam, may the Force be with you," and Obi-Wan.
Absolutely. All right. You tell me when.
Okay. Thank you
This is
so
how we'll
much.
close. Sam, you said yes?
Yes. Hold on. I'm ready.
Sam, this is General Obi-Wan Kenobi with a message for you. Be mindful of the Force, my friend. Never go to the dark side, and it will be with you, always.